Primordial Desolation. I am the Dragon Ancestor. I choose for the dragon race to retreat from the very beginning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 579. You'd better stop making sarcastic remarks and take good care of yourself. Don't think you are great. Actually, before they passed by Shen Long, they knew that Shen Long's strength was not that easy to deal with, but they knew in their hearts that no matter how powerful Shen Long was, there were two people holding him back. In fact, at the beginning, they were hesitant. Don't come over. After all, they have all seen how powerful Shen Long is. Coming here may very well mean losing their lives, but soon they heard that Shen Long also brought 2 oil bottles, so there was no need for more. Worried no matter how powerful you are, you don't have 3 heads and 6 arms, so you can't protect the people around you. Now I'll see how you chase us. One of them was very arrogant. After saying this, he ran away and started to run away. The others also started to feel full after seeing this. Shen Long couldn't help but frown slightly when he saw this. He really let this person. He had made it clear that he had to guard his side, and these 2 people could not rush out easily. Otherwise, who knows whether they would encounter any danger, and he would not be able to explain to number 1 then. Thinking of it, he felt a little helpless here. He wrote in a breath. Bazi and Pixie next to him also knew that because of their reasons, Shen Long could not capture those people. For a moment, he also felt a little embarrassed. It's all the fault of the 2 of us. If it weren't for the 2 of us, you would probably be able to catch them. After Shen Long heard this, he shook his head helplessly. Although he had this idea in his heart, he would definitely not say it out loud. Then the few of them continued to walk forward. Shen Long was thinking about it as he walked. Only then can he ensure that the people around him will not be injured, and can catch them all in one fell swoop. He knows that this is very difficult, but in fact, he brought these 2 people over at that time, but bringing them over is not a complete hindrance. Yes, naturally, they all have their own abilities, and they can help him deal with several people. Just when Shen Long was thinking about these things, he suddenly felt that something was not right around him. He found that the color of the soil around him was not quite right. Just when he wanted to open his mouth to remind these 2 people, it was already too late. The 2 of them exclaimed and then fell together. Shen Long saw that the soil under their feet began to loosen, and the moment their bodies fell down, he reacted. He immediately stepped forward and grabbed a person with one hand and hooked his foot on a stone to prevent him from falling together. The 2 people were much heavier than he thought. He felt that it would be difficult for him. Persistence. After all, this stone is not very strong. Bazi and Paizayu were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They did not expect that there was a trap deployed here. Sure enough, Buddha and the others were not so easy to deal with. They had already. I've been waiting here for a long time. After the 2 of you go back, reflect on yourselves as to why you fell into such a low-level trap. Shen Long was full of helplessness when he said this. In his opinion, this trap was not worth mentioning at all. But he did not expect that these 2 people were so stupid and could not even see this trap. Fortunately, he wanted to remind them just now, but now it seems that the reminder is useless. Chapter 580. After listening to what Shen Long said, Bazi and Paizayu only felt a little ashamed in their hearts. This time they came here and they really hindered Shen Long. Originally, the 2 of them were still discussing how they could try their best to help Shen Long, but they didn't expect to fall into the trap here. If it weren't for Shen Long, they would probably have fallen into it by now. Who knows when he will be able to climb up? Bazi looked at Shen Long helplessly. Just as he was about to speak, he was glared at by Shen Long. Now is not the time to talk. I have to find a way to rescue the 2 of them quickly, but this is not an easy task. When those people dug this trap, they probably already thought that they might fall, so they specially prepared it here. Nowadays, it can be felt that everything around the trap is extremely slippery, and there is nothing that can be caught, except for the stone she is still hooked on. There is nothing else that he can use to draw strength. And the 2 people below, Bazi and Paizayu, were hanging in the air and couldn't find anything to grab onto. I see there seems to be a needle down there. You two should be more careful. Originally, Shen Long wanted to throw these two people down directly. Anyway, they are both mythical beasts, so nothing much will happen to them. At most, they will be hurt from the fall. But he changed this after seeing the needle below. After hearing this idea, Beizi lowered his head and took a closer look, only to realize that it was not an ordinary person's reality, especially for mythical beasts like them. Not to mention so many needles. Even if it is pricked once, it will bleed a lot, and if it is pricked 3 times, it will probably bleed to death, and the movement cannot be stopped at all. Seeing this, his face turned even paler, and even the people next to him Pixiu's face couldn't help but look ugly. Who would have thought that those people would think so carefully and set up such a trap here? I know that this matter is all to blame on the two of us. If we weren't so stupid, you wouldn't be so tired now. But you must get the two of us up. Beizi had a pleading tone. After saying this, he was almost in tears. He didn't want to die so early now. Moreover, the pierced mythical beast would not die immediately, but would have to endure 7 or 49 days of torture. He could not imagine what he would be like by then. Shen Long frowned after hearing this, and now his hatred for the Buddha became even deeper. He did not expect that the Buddha was more sinful than he imagined, and now he is still studying. He wanted to use this kind of thing to deal with the mythical beast. Just when Shen Long wanted to use his strength to pull the two of them up as much as possible, he suddenly felt that there seemed to be someone coming from around him. He raised his head and looked carefully and found that the person who came turned out to be Guanyin. The arrival of Guanyin was something he expected. After all, he had seen it just now. After seeing Guanyin Bodhisattva, Beizi was full of regrets. He frowned and glared at Pixiu next to him. Just now, Shen Long said that he saw Guanyin, but Pixiu stopped him. He also thought that Shen Long might have been blinded, so please support Pixiu. But he did not expect that Guanyin really appeared, and now they would be disabled. Guanyin will definitely not let them go so easily. Chapter 581. It's all my fault. If we had listened carefully to Shen Long's words and pursued Guanyin, we might not be in this situation now. But there is no regret medicine in the world. After saying this with a ferocious expression, he glanced at the needles below. The needles below were densely packed, which really made people feel scared, but he could let go when needed. How could he let Shen Long follow? They died together in this place, and he began to regret it again. Why didn't he listen well? Shen Long is so powerful, he will definitely not be wrong, and whatever he says in the future will be right. After hearing this, Pixiu's face also felt a little bad. At that time he didn't think too much. He just thought that Shen Long might be dazzled and didn't want to waste time on that kind of thing. But he didn't expect that his stupid idea at the time turned out to be that he and the others fell into such a trick. By the way, isn't Guanyin dead? Why are you still appearing in front of us now? Pixiu still felt a little unclear about this matter. After hearing this, Shen Long raised the corners of his mouth slightly and asked the two of them to explain. What is Immortal? At that time, I felt that he was faking his death, and her body was also taken away by people from the Buddha's side. If he was really dead, why did the people on the Buddha's side drag her body away together? It was obvious that he was just faking his death at that time. I think it is most likely related to the poison bitten in its mouth, which is not real poison at all. If the situation hadn't been urgent at that time, Shen Long felt that he would most likely have stabbed Guanyin twice to make him fake death and become a real one. But it was not easy for him to do that at that time. After hearing this, Guanyin nodded in agreement. I didn't expect that Shen Long was smarter than he thought, but it was too late to find out now. Isn't it too late to say this now? The three of you will die together today. After Guanyin finished saying this, she approached Shen Long. Shen Long narrowed his eyes slightly and let go of Beizi and Pixiu. The two of them screamed. After Beizi finished shouting, he closed his eyes calmly and planned to accept this reality. Instead, Pixiu looked at Shen Long unwillingly, as if he had some resentment. However, Shen Long didn't have much time to care about the two of them, but instead hit the hole with one move. The bottom. Although the needles at the bottom of the hole are used to deal with mythical beasts, they are not particularly strong. After Shen Long hit this move, he heard the needles all shatter with a bang. Baizi and Pixiu were not injured if they fell, no matter how many injuries he suffered. It was just a bunch of broken needles stuck behind him. Baizi hurriedly patted his chest. He was almost scared to death just now. He had already thought about what he wanted to leave as his last words, but he didn't expect something to happen. There is even a reversal. Obviously Guanyin did not expect that Shen Long would come up with this move. After Shen Long settled the matter between the two of them, he looked at Guanyin. Guanyin also realized that something was not good, and just when he wanted to run away, Shen Long chased after him. Originally, I was still thinking about how to find you, but I didn't expect you to come to my door obediently. In this case, I can't blame others. Guanyin didn't expect that Shen Long could destroy those needles so easily. If he had thought of such a method, he would never have appeared in front of Shen Long. He knew how much Shen Long hated him. Chapter 582. Guanyin ran forward with all her strength and threw out many of her weapons to deal with Shen Long. However, these things had no great effect on Shen Long. Although it was delayed for a while, Shen Long soon chased after him. Just when Guanyin was still about to take something to deal with Shen Long, he found that the person behind him was no longer Guanyin. He raised his eyebrows in confusion. Could it be that he had already shaken Shen Long away? At this moment, he suddenly bumped into something and forced it to stop. He looked up and found that Shen Long had stood in front of him at some point. This surprised him. Just when he was about to run back, Shen Long grabbed his sleeve when he transformed, forcing him to stop. Am I that terrible about running? I just want to catch you and ask you something, right? After Shen Long said this with a smile, he pressed Guanyin next to him, pinched Guanyin's neck and started walking back. Guanyin had already felt that he was not far away from death. As long as Shen Long wanted to, he could cut his neck off at any time. By the time the two of them went back, Bai's Pixiu had also climbed out. The two of them were in a very embarrassed state. They came here dressed cleanly, but they didn't expect to be covered in dirt so quickly. When Baizi saw Guanyin, he glared at him angrily. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, why would the two of us be in such a mess? I was ready to die just now. Having said this, I don't want to think about what happened just now. Fortunately, Shen Long is smart. If it weren't for Shen Long, there is a high probability that they would really die. After hearing this, Guanyin looked at him lightly and said there was no answer. But Shen Long pinched Guanyin's neck tightly and asked him, how did Guanyin escape that day? Guanyin also knew that if he didn't answer, Shen Long would probably continue to fight. So he could only honestly say that he had taken medicine that day, so the temporary suspended animation was exactly as Shen Long imagined. Shen Long nodded after hearing this and did not continue to ask about this matter. It seems that they will have to be more careful in the future. They didn't expect that the people on their side could even fake death. When Pixiu heard this, he opened his eyes wide in surprise and looked at Guanyin, but he still didn't expect that Guanyin and the others would do it next. We'll do this kind of thing. I have told you what you asked. Can you let me go? Shen Long smiled after hearing this, and then continued to ask. Of course you can't. I'll ask you a few more questions. If you answer them all, I can't consider it. Then he just asked some things about the Buddha. Although Guanyin didn't want to say it, he still revealed some information under the pressure of Shen Long. Shen Long learned that the Buddha was on this mountain and had prepared some people there. If they go there, there is a high chance that they will fall into the trap. Moreover, the Buddha has already prepared how to deal with them. Baizi's expression became even worse when he heard this. Unexpectedly, the Buddha even arranged for someone to wait for them above. Yeah, if they hadn't learned about it from Guanyin in advance, they would have been ambushed in all likelihood if they had gone up so stupidly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 583. Pa Yao next to him felt a little disbelieving, and then raised his doubts. Why should they believe whatever Guanyin says? What if Guanyin is setting a trap for them in these words? Shen Long also nodded after hearing this. he will definitely not completely believe Guanyan's words, but what Guanyan said is probably mixed with half-truth and half-falsehood. Let them judge by themselves. Shen Long thought for a while and decided that he would try it himself and take Guanyan up with him. He wanted to see if what Guanyan said was true or false. If what Guanyan said was false, he would naturally have a way to punish him. Come on, let's go up together and see if what you say is true or false. After Guanyan heard this, his expression became even more painful. He didn't expect that he had already spoken to this point, and Shen Long was still unwilling to let him go. But at the same time, he felt a little scared. After all, what he said at that time was true. Half of them are lies. If Shen Long finds out, who knows what he will do to him. Everything I say is true. If you don't believe it, go and see for yourself. By the way, there is something I haven't told you yet. They have prepared a lot of manpower in the temple, and there are also a lot of weapons. If Shen Long wants to verify it, he can go there and take a look. Shen Long nodded after hearing this, and then took these people up together. When they went up the mountain, they saw a particularly large temple on the mountain. However, they did not enter through the main entrance. Instead, they circled around to the back entrance of the temple and sneaked in over the wall. After they entered, they found that all the weapons placed in the courtyard were all kinds of weapons. Then Shen Long tied Guanyan here, and then cast a spell to make her unable to speak. He continued to move forward with Bei's Pixiu. When they came to the front, they found that there were a lot of monks here, each with a big sword ready. It seemed that he was just waiting for them to appear. Seeing this, Shen Long frowned. I originally thought that the people from Buddha's side would have come in quickly, but I didn't expect that there were so many people. It seems that he needs to be more careful. After a while, you two go up and take care of all these people. Let me see if you are really capable. After Shen Long said these words, he sat down aside. Since the two of them had lost their face just now, they urgently need the opportunity to get their face back and help Shen Long properly. So, 2 words he agreed without saying anything. Bei rushed out first, attracted everyone's attention, and started fighting with these people. Then Pixiu followed him out to conduct a sneak attack, and went up to knock those people out when they were not paying attention. The two of them they cooperated and fought here for a long time. After a while, Shen Long stopped hearing any fighting sounds. He raised his head and took a few steps forward, and saw all the people lying in the yard. Monk. However, these people were knocked unconscious directly and they were not killed directly. Shen Long also knew that these people who stayed had the value of questioning them. You two have done a good job in this matter. It seems that you two are not completely useless, Shen Long said happily. His words undoubtedly gave the other 2 people a lot of encouragement. It made them feel that they were finally useful and no longer idle. Chapter 584. But what makes Shen Long feel that there is some trouble now is that he has not seen where the Buddha is. He knew that most likely the Buddha was hiding in the dark, secretly planning how to deal with them. Shen Long took a deep breath, casually woke up a monk, and asked that monk where the Buddha was. That monk was also a soft persimmon. Seeing Shen Long's fierce look, Shen Long scolded him again, and then revealed that the Buddha was staying in the basement. As for the entrance to the basement, they didn't know. Shen Long frowned slightly, then threw the monk to the ground and started to look for it. After Pixiu knocked the monk unconscious again, he also found it with Bei. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Shen Long to vaguely see the entrance. It was a place where a pile of waste grass was piled up. Seeing this, he couldn't help but feel a little want to laugh in his heart. There were so many waste grass piled in a nice yard. Didn't it attract attention? I didn't expect that Buddha would be so careless about this aspect. Generally, these things will not be placed in large, clean and spacious yards. Shen Long quietly removed all the straw outside, and went down first. Bei and Pixiu, who were behind him, saw this and followed him in. Although they knew that they would most likely be delayed if they went in, Shen Long didn't even say that they definitely couldn't stay here forever. After Shen Long entered, he saw the Buddha sitting quietly in the basement below, mumbling something, and he didn't know what he was chanting. When Shen Long walked in front of Buddha, Buddha opened his eyes and looked at Shen Long with some bloodshot eyes. I originally thought that all my plans were good enough, but I didn't expect that you would intercept me halfway. If it weren't for you, My great cause would have been completed long ago. The Buddha felt particularly regretful when he said this. If he had known this, he should have won Shen Long to his side from the beginning. He should not have left such a good talent to his opponent. If it hadn't been for Shen Long's help, he thought that number one was not his opponent at all. After hearing this, Shen Long felt that Buddha seemed to be praising him. With his own strength, he was able to stop such a big plan of Buddha. When Shen Long heard this, the corner of his mouth it was slightly aroused, and then the Buddha suddenly came out and hit Shen Long. Shen Long responded calmly. For a moment, there was a flash of swords and shadows. Beizi Pixiu next to him was stunned. They didn't know how to intervene in this situation. They were not strong enough to fight with these two people, so they could only watch helplessly from the side. At this moment, Beizi suddenly felt that there seemed to be some movement above, so they went up with Pixiu. When they went up, they saw that Guanyin had broken free from its original restraints at some point. He also wanted to wake up all the monks. When they saw this, the two of them looked at each other. It's great now. The two of us finally have something to do. After saying this, the two of them stepped forward to stop Guanyin, but Guanyin was more powerful than they imagined. In this way, two large-scale fights broke out in the basement and on the land. Chapter 585. Soon, Beizi and Paiziyu had solved the problem. Guanyin's distorted expression now shows that she is not convinced that she was taken away by them. Then he frowned tightly and looked at the two people in front of him. In this way, he was taken to the basement. When they entered, they saw Shen Long still fighting with Buddha. But it is obvious that Buddha cannot defeat Shen Long. Shen Long could hit Buddha with every step he took, leaving serious wounds on him. You'd better admit defeat quickly. With the current number of people, there is still some possibility of survival. If this continues, I'm afraid you won't be able to last long. Swords have no eyes, so you have to think clearly. After Shen Long said this, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. It was obvious that he was sure that he would definitely win this time. After hearing this, Buddha sneered and said mockingly, "It's not certain who will lose and who will win." Although he said this verbally, he was thinking about something else. He knew that there was a high probability that he would not be able to escape this time. There was no movement above, and Guanyin was also caught. He has no helper anymore in that case. Let's wait and see. After saying this, Shen Long speeded up, and he was getting faster and faster, as if he was not tired at all. Buddha could also clearly feel that his strength was not keeping up. If he continued like this, he would definitely become Shen Long's loser. Buddha fell into a disadvantage, and just when she was about to speak, Shen Long grabbed him on the shoulder and kicked him on the knee. Just like that, she was forced to half kneel on the ground. Shen Long held her down tightly, making it impossible for her to break free. Buddha struggled a few times and gave up after struggling. Shen Long originally thought that Lord Buddha would still yell at him, but what he didn't expect was that Buddha would look at him with a smile. Why do we have to kill each other like this? If possible, we can work together to deal with number 3. After Buddha finished saying this, he saw Shen Long's expression change. Shen Long's expression turned bad because he felt disgusted with Buddha. He knew that it was impossible for the two of them, but he still wanted to say it. What's more, in this environment, he knew what Buddha meant better than anyone else. But Buddha didn't see it. He originally thought that Shen Long had this idea, so he continued, "If you are willing, the two of us can work together, and I will give you whatever you want." After the Buddha finished saying these words, he looked at Shen Long with confidence. "If you don't believe it, I can swear it." Shen Long did not respond after hearing this, and then looked down at the Buddha, so that Beizepixiu next to him could not see his expression clearly. Now the two of them are very worried. If Shen Long is really the same, they will fight together. I'm afraid they can't resist even if they die. Thinking of this, they became even more nervous. "Shen Long, please don't." Before Beizi finished speaking, Buddha took the lead. "Whether you agree or not, it all depends on Shen Long's wishes. Don't force yourself on others. I can swear that I will give you what you want." Shen Long looked at Buddha and suddenly said, "What if I want your life?" The words "don't force others to make things difficult" are returned to you. Chapter 586. After hearing this, Buddha's expression became even worse. Only then did he realize that Shen Long's expression had been different from just now, and even his smile was sarcastic. Originally, when he saw Shen Long smiling at him, he thought it was Shen Long showing kindness to him. But he did not expect that Shen Long was just laughing at him and treating him as a joke. At this moment, his expression began to look uncomfortable. Humphrey, who said those words just now, do you dare to say them again now? Baizi was scared to death just now, afraid that Shen Long would really agree, but after he knew what Shen Long meant, he became arrogant again. Originally, he thought that according to Buddha's proud character, he would not resist any longer. But what he didn't expect was that the Buddha became even more shameless, as if he really didn't care about face at all. I didn't expect you to be more righteous than my image. If possible, I would like to abandon the darkness and turn to the light and start a new life. When he said this, Shen Long was also stunned for a moment. This was something he did not expect, but what he knew was that nature is easy to change, and he did not believe that Buddha would really change. But in time even so, he was still willing to give it a try. Although he knew that he would most likely be deceived if he did so, he still wanted to take a good look at how the Buddha would react in such a life-and-death situation. Although I hate you and wish you would disappear immediately, but since you are willing to change your mind, I don't want to argue with you. After all, the world still needs you. The Buddha was overjoyed after hearing this. Originally, he just said it casually to delay time, but he didn't expect that Shen Long would actually believe it. Now he became happy, and he still felt that he disliked Shen Long. Shen Long is really easy to deceive. So what if he has the ability? He is still a stupid sport. Don't worry, I'm willing to change things again. I will listen to you in everything, and I will definitely not make mistakes again in the future. After he said this, Baizi next to him was dissatisfied. He knew who Buddha was. Even if that person was not Buddha, he would not agree to such a thing. It was simply ridiculous. If you really wanted to admit your mistake, why did you wait so late to look back? Obviously, he was secretly reminding Shen Long. Originally, he thought that with Shen Long's intelligence, he would understand it soon, but what he didn't expect was that Shen Long actually spoke for Buddha. That's not what he said. Although it was indeed a bit late for him to turn back, the prodigal son never changes his mind. Now you kneel down and admit your mistake to me, and I will forgive you. After Baizi heard this, he originally wanted to persuade him again, but after seeing Shen Long's strange expression, he swallowed all his words. For some reason, he always felt that Shen Long was not well-intentioned. When Buddha heard, although he was very reluctant in the end, he still did as he was told. Just when he admitted his mistake, he suddenly stood up and ran out. He kept an eye on what was behind him as he ran. At first, there were people chasing behind him, but soon there was no sound. Just when he was complacent and thought he had thrown Shen Long and the others away, he saw that the person in front of him seemed a bit familiar. He took a closer look and realized that it was Shen Long. Standing behind Shen Long were Baizi and Pixie. Look, at this point, how could he still not understand? Chapter 598. After they returned, they reported the matter to Fuxi. After hearing this, Fuxi just glanced at Shen Long and didn't say much. He believed in Shen Long's strength. Even if the person was gone this time, he would be the same next time. I can definitely catch it. These things are not important. What is important is how is he doing? Shen Long simply explained to him the injury of Paiziyu, and then went back to find someone to treat Paiziyu. This matter naturally fell on Baizi, and Baizi was forced to investigate the matter again. Shen Long was standing guard in the room, watching the doctor treating Pixie. The person who hit me was really ruthless. He hit him so hard that it became swollen. If the swelling was not reduced quickly, it would probably remain swollen for several days. After saying this, the doctor sighed, took out the herbal medicine and started giving it to Pixie. After the doctor left, Baizi came over again. When he came over, he had worry written all over his face. Why did something happen if you went to help Shen Long? It's so worrying. Now Baizi didn't notice anything was wrong in the atmosphere at all, and still talked to him as if he was on good terms with Pixie. After that, Baizi took out a lot of things from his basket and put them on the table. After having a relationship with Pixie, He was forced to leave because there were still many things to deal with. Shen Long looked at the herbs on the table and didn't know what to say for a while, nor did Bei Zi. How does this brain help? Fuxi has not been dragged down for so many years. My injury is almost healed now, and it's nothing serious. If you have anything to do, just go ahead and get busy. At this moment, Pixiu suddenly spoke. He felt that Shen Long was causing some trouble. He had been staying in his room. He didn't know what he was going to do, but he just didn't leave. What if he continued like this? Action? No problem. No problem. What do I have to do? Even the matter of capturing Yu Dang has been left to Bei Zi. Now I am just an idler, so I might as well come here and take good care of you. After he said these words, he peeled the apple with a knife. Pixiu smiled on the outside when he saw this, but he was particularly broken inside. Who needs Shen Long to take care of her? She still has big things to do. If she had known it earlier, if letting those people go would delay his action, he would not do it. It is not certain whether those people would rescue Buddha, but without him, Buddha would definitely not be able to get out. You see, my injury is quite minor. It's just a swollen bump. I can handle it myself. If you have nothing to do, why not go help Bei Zi? His brain is not very good, and I'm afraid that something will happen to him. Shen Long nodded in agreement after hearing this. He also felt that Bei Zi's brain was not very good, and he didn't know if there would be any problems if he did this. But since Luo Hu arranged it this way, there must be his own reason. You have to believe in Bei Zi. Although he looks stupid on the surface, he is definitely capable. Then Shen Long continued to stay here. No matter what Pai Ziyu said, he was unwilling to leave, and during this period, no one came to Shen Long and asked him to do something. Therefore, Pai Ziyu never found a chance to leave. Chapter 599. Last night, Pixiu knew that he couldn't delay like this anymore. Those people were probably ready in the past few days, but if he delayed here any longer, it would very likely cause the Buddha's rescue plan to fail. So last night, he took advantage of Shen Long not guarding her and secretly climbed out of the window. He knew that his sudden disappearance would probably attract the attention of others, but now there was no other option except this method. After he climbed out, he began to feel proud again. He had observed earlier that there were basically no people around during this period of time. With his strength, it was easy to leave from here. Just when Pixiu was about to leave, he suddenly saw a beam of light shining towards him over there. He squinted his eyes slightly and saw Shen Long walking over with a lantern. What are you doing here if you don't sleep at this late hour? After hearing this, Pa Yao wanted to twitch the most, and he started to curse in his heart. Why is Shen Long pestering him so much? Besides, what does his staying up late at night have to do with Shen Long? What's more, Shen Long took it when he had nothing to do. He was walking around here with a lantern. He didn't even observe Shen Long in action these days, but naturally he couldn't say these words directly. Instead, he smiled stiffly. What can I do at night? It's just getting up. After saying this, he pretended to go to the latrine to go out, but Shen Long stopped him again. Are your kidneys not in good condition? I remember that you didn't drink any water at night. If there is a problem with your kidneys, I will ask a doctor to come over and take a good look at you tomorrow. When Shen Long said this, she was also silently observing Pixiu's reaction. She found that Pixiu's face turned a little green. It was obvious that he was angry. Seeing this, she wanted to laugh even more. I have to say that Pixiu still has some abilities, but compared to him, he is still a little behind. There's nothing wrong with me. I drank 2 glasses of water after you left. After the explanation, Pixiu left. When Wang Fang came out of the hut, he found that Shen Long was squatting outside, as if to guard him. In desperation, he had no choice but to return to the room. After he returned, he punched the bed and made a lot of noise. If Shen Long hadn't been in the way, he would have gone out long ago. What he didn't expect was that at this time, Shen Long was outside. The voice can be heard again. Pixiu, are you okay? Why is there so much movement inside? Pixiu suppressed his temper and said it was okay. Then he lay on the bed and started scolding Shen Long. Shen Long is really sick to the extreme. He doesn't do so many things normally, but he is guarding himself here. If it weren't for his lack of strength, he would probably go out and fight with the guard outside now, knock him out and then leave this place. He is not afraid of anything but that the person guarding him is stronger than himself. Shen Long outside saw that there was no movement inside and left here. However, he was not careless. Instead, he took pictures of several people hiding in the dark and silently observing Pai Ziyu. He also knew that Pai Ziyu was definitely not a person who gave up easily, will definitely take action again. Chapter 600. But Shen Long didn't know why. After what happened that night, Pixiu became much more honest and stayed in the room all day. When he went out occasionally, he just walked around the yard and didn't do much activity, which made people around him lower their guard. Maybe Pixiu had accepted his fate, but Shen Long didn't believe him so easily. Instead, he felt that Pixiu was holding back some bad ideas, otherwise he wouldn't be so honest. He narrowed his eyes slightly, always thinking about what kind of tricks Pixiu would play. As for Pixiu, he stayed in the room, secretly taking out a little pigeon when no one was around late at night. He wrote a note on the pigeon and then released the pigeon. The appearance of this pigeon did not attract too many people's attention. After all, it was just a little pigeon. After the pigeon flew away, Pixiu lay on the bed and pretended to be asleep, feeling happy inside. He didn't know how many people Shen Long sent to watch him secretly, but he was sure that this was a pigeon that would not be caught. It was a pigeon that he specially trained to avoid other people's pursuit. As expected, he is still good at this aspect of things. Even if Shen Long takes every precaution, he probably won't be able to prevent this. Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth raised. On this day, Shen Long was having dinner with Pixiu, and suddenly a man ran over to report to him. Something happened at Dragon Palace which was quite troublesome. The man didn't say anything directly but glanced at Pai Ziyu. Shen Long knew that it was difficult for Pai Ziyu to talk here, so he went out and talked to the man carefully. When he came back, Pai Ziyu looked at him with concern. What happened at Dragon Palace? Are you okay? Even as he said this, he was still feeling happy inside. When Shen Long went out just now, he almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. It's nothing, just some small things. It seems I have to go back. After saying this, Shen Long looked at the actor Pixiu and was indeed very happy to see him. These things were done by 80 or 90-year-old Pixiu, but he couldn't go back, so Shen Long ate in a hurry and left. Here, before she left, she deliberately photographed more than a dozen people and surrounded the entire house. He wanted to see how Pixiu could escape from the eyes of more than a dozen people. After doing this, Shen Long immediately found Fuxi to be honest. There are some problems at the Dragon Palace. I'm afraid I have to go back and deal with the matter. I will come back after I have dealt with the matter. Fuxi naturally asked a few questions with concern after hearing this. Don't worry, I don't lack any manpower for the time being. As long as Buddha is imprisoned, those people probably won't be able to cause any trouble. Although Fuxi wants Shen Long to stay here to help him deal with things, it's hard to say this. After all, it was Shen Long who helped him, and he owed Shen Long a favor. You go and come back quickly, I still need you here. In the end, he could only say this sentence. Shen Long nodded after hearing it, knowing that he could not leave it for a long time. After it arranged many things here, he needed his participation. I will take my leave today and try my best to come back within 3 days. If I don't come back, someone will tell you what to do next. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 601. Shen Long kept speeding up on the way back because he knew clearly that this time things were much more serious than he thought. The original words that the person came over to him just now were about a kind of goo that broke out in the Dragon Palace. The specific type of goo insect has not yet been investigated, but what is certain is that this kind of goo insect can cause the death of those dragons. It is estimated that everyone in the Dragon Palace will be harmed before long. By that time, the entire East China Sea would probably be hopeless. Shen Long's face turned ugly when he heard the news, but Pixiu was still there at the time. He didn't want to make Pixiu too happy, so he pretended to be doing something. None of them, but in fact, He was very anxious in his heart, and he didn't know whether number 2 could stop him. Thinking of this, he sighed helplessly. It didn't take long for Shen Long to rush back. When he returned, he found that the situation in the entire Dragon Palace was particularly bad, even worse than the last time he came back. At least there were some fish and shrimp swimming around the last time he came back, but this time he came back and found that there were no fish and shrimps at all. It seemed that everyone was hiding and no one wanted to come out. He continued to walk inside, and then a small fish came out of the gap, and it swam over very excitedly when he saw him. "You are finally back, my great benefactor, please save us. The entire Dragon Palace is about to be unable to support itself." He started to cry when he said this. Shen Long didn't know how to comfort him when he saw this. Shen Long didn't speak, but waited quietly. After he finished speaking and calmed down, he told all the situation, gave it to Shen Long. Shen Long didn't know the specific information from what he just reported, but he learned all the recent things from this little fish's mouth. It turned out that this kind of goo suddenly appeared in the Dragon Palace a few days ago. At first, everyone didn't pay much attention to it. After all, the poisonous insects are generally only effective on humans and have little effect on their fish, but what they didn't expect was that this kind of poisonous insects could actually cause harm to fish, shrimps and dragons. And dragons are more harmful. Several dragons have been harmed now, and they no longer have the strength to stand up. What do you think we should do? If the dragon in the East China Sea is harmed, the entire East China Sea will be destroyed. Speaking of this, the little fish wanted to hug Shen Long right now and ask Shen Long to find a solution quickly, but his reason prevented him from doing so. Shen Long frowned slightly after hearing this. He knew this. It was far from being as simple as he imagined. This matter was very strange. He had never heard of it before. Why did such a strange goo insect suddenly appear in the East China Sea? In all likelihood, someone would have specially arranged it. Just here at that moment, Pixiu's face suddenly appeared in his mind. Although he had always sent people to monitor Pixiu and did not let Pixiu succeed, who knew whether Pixiu secretly used such strange methods to send messages to the outside world? It was impossible to say for sure. What happened to the Dragon Palace this time was related to Pixiu. If he finally found out that everything here was caused by Pixiu, he would naturally not let Pixiu go easily. "Okay, stop talking so much nonsense and take me in now to find Yazan." When Zio heard what Shen Long said, he naturally didn't dare to delay and immediately took Shen Long in. Chapter 602. Not long after they entered, Shen Long saw that a lot of small fish and shrimps had died in the Dragon Palace, but no one took care of the bodies of these small fish and shrimps. "I don't know how long ago it was when I last saw such a scene, and these little corpses began to slowly rot, looking particularly terrifying. Even the little fish next to me can't stand it anymore. It's so cruel, and I don't know what we did wrong to deserve such punishment." After saying this, Zio sighed. In her opinion, most of what they encountered was because they had done something wrong and were punished by the gods. And Shen Long was naturally for those who don't believe this statement. In his opinion, there is no god's reason at all. As for what the reason is, he needs to take a closer look. It didn't take long for Shen Long to find Yazan. It is obvious that Yazan has been waiting for him. He knows that he cannot handle this matter by himself. Only Shen Long's return can he solve it. "Shen Long, you are finally back. I have been waiting for you here for a long time. If you don't come back, I probably won't be able to stand it anymore." After Yazan said these words, he started to cough, until his body was shaking continuously. After a while, he slowly got better. Shen Long could observe Yazan's current mental state. It wasn't very good, and Yazan's body was a little weak, and he was most likely affected by these things. So he took a few steps away from Yaju, who saw some helplessness here and explained to him. He was not affected. The damage caused by the goo insect was just a result of working hard every day and not having time to rest, which caused her to be a little weak now. "I know you have more things to do, but there's nothing else you can do about it right now. If we don't get you back, it is very likely that the East China Sea will be over, and even the Dragon Mother will have suffered from this kind of thing." After saying this, Yazan felt a headache. He felt that this kind of thing came out of nowhere. It could not have come to their East China Sea for no reason. He even felt as if someone had specially arranged it, as if it was targeting them. Dong Hai. But they, Dong Hai, have always been very cautious. They have not deliberately provoked anyone, nor have they made enemies with too many people. There are very few people who would do this. He doesn't know who did it. But if he were to find out who did this, he would not forgive that person easily. Don't say these useless words. Come and tell me everything about the current situation, and arrange for me to meet with the Dragon Mother later. As for the dragons that have been harmed by goo insects, I also want to meet them. After Shen Long said this, Yazan was naturally not careless and told him everything that happened recently. After hearing this, Shen Long began to frown. He did not expect that the matter was more serious than he imagined. This voodoo spreads very quickly. Even if the two dragons are not in contact, they can be affected as long as they are separated by a certain distance. So many dragons have been infected. Those dragons that have been harmed by the voodoo are naturally they were locked together and couldn't go out. Because of her special status and being a female dragon, the Dragon Mother was treated better. She had a separate house. Chapter 603. But even this has no effect. After all, no one can take care of them. Even delivering food requires being fully armed and throwing the food far away. I don't know how much the Dragon Mother has suffered these days. What to do now? I can't just watch Dragon Mother stay in that place alone. And the situation is getting worse and worse now. A dragon has already died among the victims. If it continues like this, I'm afraid the Dragon Mother won't be able to hold on. Originally, Mother Dragon's health was not very good and she had been recuperating. Now that she has encountered this kind of thing again, she may not be able to last long. Shen Long narrowed his eyes slightly after hearing this. This is what Dong Hai needs most. It is a female dragon like the Dragon Mother. Only the female dragon can ensure the continuation of the East China Sea. There are only a few female dragons in the East China Sea. If the Dragon Mother dies, it will have a great impact on the entire dragon clan. Don't worry, I already know some specific situations, just leave the rest to me. Although Shen Long said so, he was more anxious than anyone else, and he didn't even have a clue to deal with this matter now. He didn't know how to deal with it, but he could only bite the bullet and go ahead. If it continues to be delayed like this, I'm afraid Dong Hai will be in catastrophe. Shen Long carefully discussed the treatment plan with Yazan here, but after discussing for a long time, they didn't have any clue. They invited Dr. Long from Dong Hai over, and there was no response. These dragon doctors had never encountered such a poisonous insect before, and such a poisonous insect had never appeared in previous historical records. Although I don't know what kind of bug this is, I can be sure that this kind of bug spreads and reproduces very quickly. If it is delayed for a few more days, this thing will be gone. Even if the dragon of the East China Sea moves to another place, it is estimated that it will be difficult to prevent this thing from continuing to happen. It is very likely that each of us has a bug in our body now, but we don't know it ourselves. This kind of bug will probably lurk for 2 or 3 days before coming out to cause damage. After Dr. Long said these words, he sighed helplessly and took a look at his body. He found that something seemed not quite right with him these days, and he didn't know whether he had been victimized. But those patients also, you can't leave it there forever without treatment. I understand that recently, these children have troubled you to continue to take care of them. They will specially arrange a room for you. If you need anything, I will find someone to send it to you. But you must also take care of your health and never let me suffer. Now the entire East China Sea depends on you. Shen Long didn't suggest that Dr. Long would be infected by poisonous insects if he stayed with patients for a long time. Instead, he was very generous and patted the doctor on the shoulder freely. After all, this kind of thing basically seems to only be used by dragons and some fish and shrimps. React. And he is a human and will not be disturbed too much, which proves that that person is most likely intentional and specifically targeted at these dragons in the East China Sea. The dragons in the East China Sea rarely go out to provoke others, and the fact that they have been staying in the East China Sea recently can be ruled out because of revenge against their enemies. Shen Long felt that it was very likely that the other party was coming towards him, deliberately causing some trouble in the East China Sea to lure him away. Chapter 604. He thought of Pai Ziyu again. He felt that this matter had a lot to do with Pai Ziyu, and he was led away. Among them, the one who benefited the most was Pai Ziyu. Pai Ziyu was able to escape from that place smoothly. No matter what he did, he didn't have to think twice. But Pixiu definitely didn't expect that even if he left, he would arrange people nearby and not let him succeed so easily. Even if their dragon palace was having a hard time, Pixiu wouldn't even think about being able to save Buddha. Then he told his thoughts to Yazan next to him. Yazan's eyes widened after understanding, but he didn't blame Shen Long too much. If Shen Long hadn't arrived in time, their East China Sea Dragon Palace would have been finished long ago, so he was not qualified to say anything more. But I still feel a little sad in my heart. I didn't expect that this kind of thing happened because of other people's conspiracy. They were just used as a tool. The person who did this is really disgusting. He actually used Dong Hai as a tool. Because of his conspiracy, Dong Hai became what it is now. But I also want to remind you, don't interfere too much in this matter. This is their divine business and has nothing to do with us. Too much intervention will make you suffer. It's not unreasonable when Yazan said this. In the beginning, their dragons were punished for interfering too much in the affairs of gods. Now they are no longer willing to participate in anything, obediently staying in their own territory. They never thought that even so, they were still not let go by others. The reason was because Shen Long interfered in the affairs of the gods. After hearing this, Shen Long nodded, and he naturally knew I shouldn't interfere in this kind of thing. But if the Buddha's matter is not dealt with, it is estimated that he will probably occupy the entire heaven. By then, the Dragon Clan will not be able to protect themselves. Shen Long did this for long-term considerations. They used to help number 4. However, there is no point in talking to Yazan about these things. It is estimated that Yazan will not understand. Instead, he pays more attention to assisting them. Now I'm going to check on Dragon Mother and the others. You stay here and don't go there. Shen Long still doesn't know whether this kind of goo has a big impact on him, but he is not worried. He wants to see what's going on with the Dragon Mother. After hearing this, Yeju didn't say much, just he told him the address, and he quietly waited for Shen Long here. After Shen Long knew the address, he went first. When he went there, he found that everything around him was sealed up, and there were goo insects written everywhere. Infested, please be careful not to get close to this place. After Shen Long entered from a place that was not very tightly sealed, he first came to the address where the Dragon Mother was. After he knocked on the door, the Dragon Mother slowly opened the door. Shen Long was very special when he saw it. Was surprised, and then immediately closed the door. You are the great benefactor of our Dragon Clan. Please do not come here, otherwise, if you are contaminated by me, then I will be guilty of a great crime. Speaking of this, she started to blame Shen Long again. She was obviously pretty good here, but Shen Long's arrival disturbed her thoughts. Okay, why don't you leave here with other dragons and come to me? I will be a dying dragon. In a few days, I will probably be in the same situation as the last dragon, and be drained of all my efforts by goo insects. Died in this room. Chapter 605. When she talked about this matter, her tone was full of sadness. At this moment, Shen Long suddenly broke in and stood in front of her generously. The mother of dragons was so frightened that she hurriedly hid behind her. She also blamed Shen Long for being ignorant and being so reckless and not listening to advice. I haven't said anything else. What are you afraid of? Since I dare to come here, it proves that I naturally have my own ideas. You don't need to worry too much. Tell me your current situation and see if I have any way to deal with it. Shen Long told Mother Long what he had discovered, and reassured Mother Long that she didn't have to worry about him. After hearing this, Mother Long breathed a sigh of relief and sat down with Shen Long naturally. She was no longer as nervous as before. I don't know the specifics, but I remember one night when I was sleeping, I suddenly felt someone moving around me, so I went out, and I didn't expect to see a figure. When I was about to give chase, the man splashed something on me. After I returned home, I washed my body and fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, I felt something was wrong with my body. After she said this, Shen Long frowned. Sure enough, This matter in Dragon Palace was deliberately arranged by someone. Although he didn't know who that person was, he knew that it was most likely arranged by Buddha people. The struggle between them is all about their heavenly affairs. Why should they be involved with the Dragon Clan? The poor Dragon Clan is suffering again. Now it is only the Dragon Clan in the East China Sea that is suffering. It is not clear whether the dragons in other sea areas will also suffer in the future. After all, this kind of voodoo spreads so fast. If dragons from other sea areas come here, they will most likely be possessed by the voodoo, unless the voodoo mother is found. Don't worry, I know everything you said, and you don't have to worry too much. I will try my best to deal with this matter. Shen Long simply comforted Dragon Mother, but his comfort did not have much effect. Dragon Mother still looked very sad, sitting there quietly, as if she had accepted all the fate. Seeing this, Shen Long felt a little unbearable in his heart. He sighed and didn't know how to persuade him. Don't be too sad, I will try my best to save your lives. I'm going to check on Citron's condition now. After saying this, Shen Long left here and went to a big house. There were 7 or 8 dragons living in this big house. All of these dragons were infected with goo. Before, they were all very lively, but now each one looked particularly lost, and they were far away from each other, enjoying themselves there alone. When Shen Long entered, everyone just glanced at him lightly, and didn't have much reaction. Shen Long didn't blame them when he saw this. After all, they felt that they were already dying, so they must be sad inside. Don't worry, everyone, the main purpose of my coming this time is to save everyone. I already know what is going on with your goo insects. Although Shen Long hasn't completely figured it out yet, in order to make everyone feel at ease, he can only say this. Sure enough, after his words came out, everyone looked at him, and even their eyes became clear. After that, Shen Long briefly told them what he had discovered, and then continued. Chapter 606. I already know who is deliberately targeting Donghai. I should be able to find that person in a short time. The top priority now is to delay your time. After that, Shen Long walked to the bed of the dragon. He could see that the dragon had suffered the most severe injuries. There were already some spots on his body that were exposed by the poisonous insects. If this continues, it probably won't last long. And the dragon has been lying on the bed now, looking at Shen Long and unable to speak. His condition is the most serious. He was the first dragon to find out that he was infected by this kind of poisonous insect. It is not easy to survive until now, but we estimate that he can live for at most 2 days. The black dragon next to him didn't have any scruples and said it directly. After hearing this, the dragon lying on the bed closed his eyes and shed a few tears. Seeing this, Shen Long wiped the tears from his face. It was clean and did not look disgusting at all. Then he picked up the dragon's arm and examined the dragon's arm carefully. However, except for the rot in many places, nothing could be seen on this arm. Shen Long had just put it when I lowered my arm. I saw that there were several more scales on my hand. I didn't expect that the scales had already begun to fall off. It was just like what the black dragon said just now. I guess this dragon wouldn't be able to bear it anymore. You guys get out of here first. I want to take a closer look at his condition. After Shen Long said this, Citron left here without any reason. Shen Long turned over the dragon lying on the bed and checked the injuries on his back. He saw that the dragon's back seemed to be faint. There was about a small thing moving there, but he still couldn't see clearly. Shen Long thought for a moment, covered his eyes with spiritual power, and carefully observed the wound. He saw that there was a small mark on the wound. Something was vaguely squirming over there. Shen Long continued to increase his spiritual power and soon saw clearly that the things squirming on the wound turned out to be small worms. Naturally, they were invisible to the naked eye. It's just that there was a place where thousands of bugs were piled up together. Only with so many bugs moving together could he notice this kind of thing. Most people would not notice such tiny bugs. Don't worry, I've seen what's inside your wound now. After Shen Long said this, he frowned. This kind of bug came in and out brightly, making the whole flesh and blood begin to rot. He looked at the scales next to him and found that there were a lot of worms at the roots of the scales. Small bugs. These small bugs eat all the meat at the roots of the scales, causing the scales to fall off. Most of the rotten places on the body are also the places where the bugs are most abundant. Only then did Shen Long realize that this was not a goo bug at all. 89 were caused by these little bugs. In the end, Shen Long tried to pinch out these little bugs, but his hands were too big and the bugs were too small. If he was not careful, he would touch the rotten meat. Moreover, these bugs would be sensed and penetrated into the dragon's body before he started. Because there were too many small bugs getting in at the same time, some of the dragon could not bear it. He groaned and spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Shen Long didn't dare to move and could only continue to cover him with the quilt. Chapter 607. You don't have to worry too much. I'm going to check on the other dragons now. After Shen Long said this, he went out and called all the dragons over. Although everyone didn't know what Shen Long wanted to do, they all did it when Shen Long asked them to take off their clothes. Shen Long was beside him, looking at them one by one. He soon found that it was just as he imagined. These dragons were covered with small bugs. Some of these small bugs would fall to the ground, and the bugs that fell on the ground would still have a certain amount of vitality. They will maintain their lives for a long time. They will also transfer, but the transfer speed is not very fast. And if there are other dragons passing by at this time, there is a high chance that they will be infected by this little bug. It's a small bug. The ability to reproduce is also very fast. Once infected, the bugs will immediately get into that person's body and lay many eggs in the body. There are many bugs and eggs in the bodies of these dragons. I can see that there are very small bugs inside your body. As for what these bugs are, I don't know. For the first time, Shen Long felt that his ability was so insignificant. Even if he was so powerful, there was basically no way to deal with such small things. Even though these things are small, so many small things come together, it's still scary enough. Shen Long sighed and then asked, what about the dead dragon from before? The body shouldn't have been cremated, right? Generally, corpses of infectious diseases must be cremated. I hope they didn't do this underwater. Because his body was so decomposed, no one was willing to move it, so a few of us carried his body and found a place nearby to bury it. It was just buried, so you can dig it out again if you want to take a look. Although it would be too cruel to do so, everyone no longer thinks so much. If they can save them by observing the dragon's body, they are naturally willing. Shen Long nodded after hearing this. One of the dragons took him to that place, and then started digging. After a while, he dug up the body of the previous dragon. This dragon was too rotten to see, and the other one accompanied him to dig up the body. The dragons couldn't bear it and moved their gaze to other places. Shen Long didn't mind taking out the dragon's body. There are a lot of little bugs on this dragon's body. If you are infected, the condition will probably be more serious. Please leave here and I will continue to look at it. After saying this, the dragon immediately walked away. If Shen Long hadn't requested it, he probably wouldn't have come here to watch this kind of scene. There are really some people who can't bear to see their compatriots become like this. Shen Long was quietly observing the dragon's body over there. The dragon was still alive just now and he didn't dare to act trashly, but the dragon was dead, which meant that he could continue to study it. Although this dragon is dead, the little bugs on his body are not dead yet. They still continue to eat at his wounds actively and slowly. The scales on this dragon's body have almost fallen off, leaving only sporadic ones, a few pieces. Shen Long can be sure that in 2 days the meat on this dragon will be almost gone. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 608. Shen Long finally muttered in offense, and finally began to look at the dragon's body. He first dug his fingers into a piece of the dragon's flesh and tore off a piece of it. I quickly discovered that there were a lot of bugs in the meat, as well as a lot of bug eggs. Those bugs seemed to be able to sense something was wrong around them. These insects also ran very fast. Some of them were pulled out by him just now, and some of them hid in deeper layers. This means that it cannot clean out all the bugs in this way. Shen Long took a deep breath and continued to study the plan, and then he changed to another plan. He first sealed his spiritual energy on the dragon's body, and used his spiritual energy to force all these little bugs out. If these bugs don't come out and continue to stay here, they will most likely die. Soon he saw those insects crawling out in dense numbers, more than he imagined, and these insects were huddled together. Now even the naked eye could see it. Shen Long felt a little nauseous when he saw this. He endured the nausea in his body and continued to observe. After these bugs came out, Shen Long put them in a small bottle, and soon a large bottle was filled. The little bugs in the bottle were still actively trying to escape. Shen Long directly capped the bottle and continued to fill the bottle with bugs. It's just that there are too many bugs on this dragon. He filled 4 or 5 bottles at once and still didn't finish them. Finally, he used his spiritual power to destroy all the little bugs. He saw the little bugs in the bottle and fell into deep thought. He can naturally use this method to treat dead dragons, but I'm afraid he can't do this to those who are still alive. If the spiritual power was directly transferred into their bodies, they would probably be unbearable. Finally, he buried the body again. Now there are no bugs on the body. The corpse can now stay underground normally. Shen Long put these small bottles in his hands and quietly observed the bugs. These bugs looked particularly fragile and they would not be able to bear it as long as he put his spiritual power into them. And if he increases his spiritual power, the bugs will turn into a pool of blood. Shen Long did many experiments with these small bugs. He used various methods to attack these small bugs, but he found that these bugs were not afraid of anything except spiritual power. No wonder the dragons had no resistance to them. After all, these dragons are not cultivating spiritual power. Now he is still thinking that it would be great if he could help these dragons cultivate their spiritual power. With spiritual power, they would no longer be afraid of these things. Fortunately, he was in the sea and didn't go out. Otherwise, who knows what would happen to ordinary people if they were infected by this kind of bug. Mortal life is much more fragile, and it is estimated that one will die within 3 days of being contaminated. Seeing this, Shen Long sighed helplessly and left. Then he found the doctor before and placed these small bottles in front of the doctor. The doctor opened his eyes wide in surprise and looked at the bottles. There's something squirming inside, and you can't really see what it is. I just collected these. Those dragons that have been infected by the poison have this kind of thing on them. I will help you see them clearly. Chapter 609. After saying this, Shen Long covered the dragon's eyes with spiritual power, and soon the dragon could clearly see the bugs inside. When he saw it clearly, his whole body began to tremble and it was difficult to speak. After a while, after he calmed down, he looked at Shen Long with a complicated look. What can a little doctor like him do? Even if you see it, it's of no use if I read it correctly. This kind of insect has appeared before. According to historical records, this kind of insect also appeared in the dragon tribe tens of millions of years ago. It's just that the scale of the outbreak was not large at that time. After people killed all the dragons that were infected by the poisonous insects, there was no more outbreak. This method is particularly cruel, so I don't recommend it. After Shen Long heard this, he felt a little surprised. He originally thought that there was no way to save him, but he didn't expect that there was still a way. But this method cannot be used except in emergencies. Apart from this method, no one has thought of any other method. Even after tens of thousands of years, no one has proposed other methods. Everyone thought that this kind of bug no longer existed, so no one cared about it. But they didn't expect that it would appear again today. After hearing this, Shen Long's expression became a little uncomfortable. He didn't expect that those people would find all these insects in order to deal with the East China Sea Dragon clan. If it hadn't been for his appearance, it is possible that the East China Sea Dragon clan would have continued to face the same situation that it had millions of years ago. Maybe then the other Dragon clan people will point their fingers at the East China Sea Dragon clan and kill all the dragons in the East China Sea Dragon clan. I understand. I will leave these 2 bottles to you and study them slowly. After Shen Long gave him the thing, he saw the dragon looking at him with a particularly surprised look and shaking his head. He knew that his strength was not very powerful. Even there were so many powerful wizards in ancient times, there was nothing he could do. What could a little doctor like him do? But since Shen Long trusted him so much, he couldn't refuse directly. He could only nod helplessly. Shen Long glanced at him, but he didn't say anything more. He didn't expect the doctor to be able to study anything. He had been thinking about how to deal with these little bugs. After that, he suddenly went outside and brought in a lot of herbs and put them on the little bugs. Nearby, he watched the reactions of these little bugs. What surprised him was that these little bugs had no reaction at all. Even with those herbs with strong repellent power, these little bugs still had no reaction. The doctor next to him, he didn't react much when he saw this, as if he already knew about it. Your method has been tried in ancient times, but it didn't work at all. If it could, I would have used it long ago. Because there are very few records in this area, the doctor didn't react at first. When he saw the little bug, he realized that the bug seemed to be related to a book he read 10 years ago. This kind of thing was also written in that book. He did not finish reading the book at that time. He just felt uncomfortable in his heart and could not accept this kind of thing, so he put the book away. More than 10 years later, I don't know where the book is still and whether it can be found. Chapter 610. Maybe you can go to the library and have a look. I remember that I read a book there more than 10 years ago, which recorded things about this kind of insect. At that time, I thought this kind of thing was too cruel, so I didn't continue reading it. If there were no accidents, the book should still be in the Dragon Clan's library. After hearing this, Shen Long's eyes lit up. This means that there is still some leeway. He is not afraid of trouble, but is afraid that there is no way to deal with this matter. After he thanked the doctor, he went immediately inside the library of the Dragon Clan. He called Yuzui to come and go with him. He told Yuzui all the things he had discovered just now. After hearing this, Yuzui opened his eyes in surprise. He did not expect that such a thing could be found. Will appear. Although the best way is to get rid of those dragons suffering from this disease, he can't bear to do that. After all, they are all dragons who grew up with him, and he doesn't know who did this. Will people appear again and secretly spread this kind of poison to them again? So instead of killing all those dragons, it is better to study slowly. After developing a method to control this kind of bug, there is no need to being restrained by others. Being passively restrained by others is not something that the Dragon Clan would do. I decided that I must study this thing carefully. Tomorrow I will gather all the doctors from the Dragon Clan and let them study it together. I don't believe it. So many people can't figure out how to deal with this bug. Shen Long nodded after hearing this. At the same time, he had another idea. These people here are working hard, and he naturally wants to help. He wants to find out the person behind the scenes. Only by bringing the person behind the scenes to only by finding them out can they prevent them from continuing to release bugs in the future. In this case, let's split up, but I also want to remind you that those dragons may die at any time. You have to be prepared. If you really can't research it in the end, those dragons will die at the hands of the person behind the scenes without us taking action. I will catch him out, and then no one will continue to release that kind of bugs. After hearing this, Yazan closed his eyes slightly, nodded, and sighed. Now that the Dragon King of the East China Sea is in poor health, and the insects are too dangerous recently, he did not let the Dragon King of the East China Sea come out. Recently, the Dragon King of the East China Sea, the Dragon King, was recuperating and didn't know much about this matter. All he knew was what Yuzui told him, and Yazan didn't want to talk too much about the matter, lest the Dragon King of the East China Sea worry about it, so he only told it roughly. Recently, many people are sick, so the Dragon King of the East China Sea should not come out to avoid being infected by them. By the way, who has been guarding the Dragon Palace in recent days? After Shen Long asked this question, he naturally had his own reasons. After hearing this, Yazan looked a little unhappy and explained to Shen Long because everyone was too scared. They basically hid at home, with few people watching over them. At that time, he felt that the East China Sea was like this, and it was estimated that no other people would come in. They were all afraid of being contaminated, so they didn't let anyone guard them, and everything was left to chance. But this situation would also make the person who released the bugs more serious. It was convenient, and now it only regrets how it could have been so careless. Chapter 611. Now that I think about it, what you said makes sense. After all, those who were infected were basically the dragons who were guarding them at the time. After saying this, Yazan sighed. Shen Long also frowned slightly after hearing this. It's not clear when that person will come. In order to prevent him from coming again, I have an idea that I need you to cooperate with me. After Shen Long said this, Yazan next to him nodded immediately. Since there is a way to deal with it, he will naturally cooperate with it. After that, Shen Long told him to let him release the news, saying that those who were hit all Guchong's dragons were killed. As for those who were suspected, they were all locked up, and they would all be killed when they were discovered. Yazan was stunned for a moment after hearing this. You don't have to think too much and just do as I say. As for those dragons locking them up in other places, don't let others know, don't let people outside know. Yazan's eyes widened slightly, and he suddenly understood what Shen Long wanted to do. He nodded, admiring Shen Long even more in his heart. If that's the case, then I'll do as you say. Soon, news came out from the Dragon Palace that it was a kind of bug, and anyone touched by the bug would die. In order to prevent the bug from continuing to be infected, they killed all the dragons that had been infected before, and lock up all the suspected dragons. If they are possessed by such a poisonous insect, kill them all. Naturally, many people will be dissatisfied when this news comes out, but no one is satisfied. He didn't say much. After all, once he got contaminated, he would most likely die, so he could only silently agree. In order to warn people about this matter, Dong Hai specifically told the people in several other sea areas about this incident. After the dragons in other sea areas heard about it, they began to be on guard without saying a word, and Shen Long also vaguely felt that it would not be long before the person behind the scenes would come back and release the bugs again. In the past 2 days, they all sent people to guard the entire Dragon Palace in secret. Once someone approached, he would find it immediately. On this night, Shen Long was living in a small house near the Dragon Palace. He heard the sound of someone coming. He immediately opened his eyes. He has been guarding here for the past few days, so that he is now a little exhausted. Fortunately, he has strong abilities. Otherwise, he would probably not be able to stand it long ago. He saw a figure sneaking towards Dragon Palace approached, and he was carrying a very big baggage on his back. Seeing this, Shen Long was sure that it was probably this person. As he slowly approached, he discovered that the person turned out to be the Holy Mother of Water Spirits. "What are you doing there?" Suddenly Shen Long said these words, which scared the body of the water spirit Madonna in front of her. She turned around and saw Shen Long and ran away without saying a word. While running away, she was thinking about this matter. She finally understood. Shen Long, there was a high probability that Long was waiting for them here on purpose. Maybe the news this time was also a trap, and she came here stupidly. She also went to check the places where Long stayed before to make sure they were there. After Long she was really gone. She believed the news released by the East China Sea Dragon Palace. Unexpectedly, Shen Long would use such tricks to lure her out. Chapter 612. The last time I let you go, I shouldn't have done it. This time I won't let you escape again. What you did has touched my bottom line. After Shen Long said these words, he immediately chased after him and caught up with the water spirit Madonna at a terrifying speed. The water spirit Madonna originally wanted to avoid Shen Long's attack, but what she didn't expect was that Shen Long's attack was weaker than the last time. It was so violent that it hit her all at once, causing her to fall to the ground and not be able to get up for a long time. I said, don't even think about escaping this time, let alone resisting these things. I will make you receive the punishment you deserve. After saying this, Shen Long took the water spirit mother back and made Yasui take a good look at her. She is the one who made your Dragon Palace become like this. After hearing what Shen Long said, Yazan immediately looked at the water spirit Madonna, his eyes red. I really didn't expect that our Dragon Palace has suffered so many sins, and it's all caused by you, a female dragon. After saying this, Yazan sighed. It was obviously difficult to accept it. He patted his chest and stared at the woman in front of him. How do you think I should punish you? Is it better to peel off your skin and cut off your flesh piece by piece, or to throw you into other insects? After he said these words, Shen Long could clearly feel the water spirit mother shuddering. The water spirit mother gave Shen Long and Yazan a vicious look. Just when she wanted to get up and run away, Shen Long kicked her. behind her back. I know you have recovered, and I'm afraid I know your body's endurance better than you do, so don't think about leaving here. Answer my questions carefully, and tell me how to solve these bugs." After Shen Long said these words, the water spirit mother suddenly laughed. No matter how powerful Shen Long is, no matter how powerful he is, he can't do anything to him. "If you kill me now, no one will be able to tell you how to deal with those bugs. You have to think carefully about how to entertain me." After hearing this, Shen Long narrowed his eyes slightly, and his eyes were a little scary, which made Yazen next to him couldn't help but take 2 steps back, feeling that Shen Long was about to get angry. What surprised Yazen was that Shen Long was not angry. Instead, he looked at the water spirit Madonna in front of him with a smile, and even his tone became much gentler. "I will definitely not kill you. How could I let you die so easily? I have many ways to torture you well." After saying this, Shen Long stretched out his hand and took one of water spirit mother's arms, and began to pull her out of the house, and soon walked to the cell in the East China Sea Dragon Palace. Because of the things that happened recently, so there is no one watching over the cell, and the criminals in the cell are still locked inside, unable to escape. Because of your bugs, the entire East China Sea Dragon Palace has become a mess. Now these people in the cell have not eaten for many days. Do you think if I threw you in, would you be able to beat so many people? After Shen Long said this, he looked into the cell. There were 2 dragons among the dozen or so people locked in the cell. If the water spirit Madonna was thrown in, he felt that it would be difficult to beat the water spirit Madonna, having passed so many people. After all, those who can be imprisoned here must be capable. Chapter 613. The water spirit mother shuddered after hearing this. Looking at the people in the cell, she knew that if she went in, she would most likely be eaten. "Before you are eaten by them, I will drag you out and question you properly. If you don't answer again, I will treat all your injuries and then throw you in. I think if you repeat this a few times, you can persist." "Until when?" After Shen Long said these words, he pulled her and started to walk towards the cell. Naturally, the water spirit mother was struggling desperately. While struggling, she said to Shen Long, I tell you, don't throw me into that place. Don't you just want to know how to deal with those bugs?" After Shen Long heard what he said, he continued to move forward without answering. He didn't stop until he reached the front of the cell and pressed the head of Our Lady of Water Spirit on the iron door of the cell. And inside the iron door, people opened their eyes wide after seeing Our Lady of the Water Spirit, as if they were seeing the food being delivered. "You'd better tell me honestly. If what you said makes me feel dissatisfied, I will pass your hand in and see if they will pull off your entire arm." After Shen Long said this with a smile, Our Lady of Water Spirit began to tremble. "This is a very ancient bug. I got this bug from Buddha accidentally. As for how to get rid of these bugs, it is actually quite simple. Just put spiritual power into the bodies of those dragons and kill all the bugs inside. Or kill the dragons and burn their corpses, and the bugs will not be infected." After hearing this, Shen Long rolled his eyes. Of course he knew what happened before, and there was no need for Our Lady of Water Spirit to explain it. But before Our Lady of Water Spirit said this, she never thought about whether those dragons could be inside their bodies. "Have spiritual power." What you said is as if you didn't say it at all. It's not a good way to solve the problem at all. It seems that I have to throw you into it before you are willing to tell the truth. "Everything I say is true. You must believe me." Water Spirit Mother immediately shook her head after hearing what Shen Long said. She had already said this, but Shen Long didn't believe her. What could she do? After hearing this, Shen Long looked at her fearful expression. She felt in her heart that there was a high probability that she would not dare to lie to herself again, so she could only throw her aside. "You'd better make sure that everything you say is true and you don't hide anything from me. Otherwise I will make you die badly." After saying this, Shen Long left here and closed the outside door. The cells in the Dragon Palace are naturally different from ordinary cells. As long as the outside door is closed, the people inside will definitely not be able to climb out. It would be good to let the Water Spirit Mother starve in there for a few days first. After Shen Long left, he told Yeju all the information he got. After hearing this, Yeju was still very angry. "Aren't all the things she said nonsense?" After hearing this, Shen Long frowned slightly and thought thoughtfully. I remember a doctor told me before that this kind of insect was recorded in a book. It is in the library of your dragon clan. I wonder if I can find it. If I find it, there will be a solution in it. Method. Chapter 614. After Shen Long said this, Yazen's eyes lit up, and without saying a word, he took the key to the library and went with Shen Long. If you had said it earlier, things would have been much easier to handle. Then the two of them came to the library together, but what Shen Long didn't expect was that the library was much larger than he imagined. It had 3 or 4 floors, and the room was full of things. The books were dazzling, and then they called 7 or 8 people over to search with them. Fortunately, this library has been organized very well. The books they wanted to find were on the 4th floor, so they went there. He went to look through the books one by one on the 4th floor. It didn't take long for Yazen to find the book. He took the book and put it in front of Shen Long, and asked happily, "Is this the book you are talking about? I just saw that kind of insect image drawn in this book." After Yazen said these words, everyone around him stopped and looked at the work at hand, full of surprises. Shen Long hurriedly took the book over, looked through it, and asked them what to do. The book he was looking for was the same, but when he continued to turn back, he found that the 2 pages at the back had been torn out. The solution to this bug happened to be on the 2 pages at the back. How is this going? What about those 2 pages? Shen Long felt that the 2 missing pages had been torn out by someone. He couldn't confirm who did it, but he always had a hunch that this matter had something to do with the Buddha. Maybe the Buddha wanted to avoid it. They found a way, so they sent someone to tear out those 2 pages. I don't know this either. The dragon who was responsible for guarding the library was the first dragon to die. After saying this, Yazen sighed, as if he had just known some answers. But all the answers were hidden again. After hearing this, Shen Long felt that the 2 pages were most likely to be with the water spirit mother. The dragon in the library pavilion was the first to die, which means that the Virgin Mary of Water Spirit should have visited the library pavilion for the first time. I think it is very likely that the Virgin Mary of Water Spirit came to the library for the first time, and put bugs on the dragon's body. Then she came to the library again and tore up the answers in the book. After Yazen heard this, he clenched his fists and looked very angry. Then he sent someone to the cell and said that he wanted to interrogate Our Lady of the Water Spirit, but he insisted that the Lady of the Water Spirit hand over the 2 pages. Then the 2 of them refused. They sat quietly in the library and waited, but what the 2 of them didn't expect was that the Water Spirit Mother actually swallowed the 2 pages in front of the others. At that time, several of us went up to stop him, but we didn't. The man still blamed himself and lowered his head. After hearing this, Shen Long frowned and took Yazen over without saying a word. When they passed by, they saw Our Lady of Water Spirit sitting there very proudly. There, looking at them with your chin raised. "The 2 pages you want are in my belly. If you have the ability, come and get them. I know how important your 2 pages are to you, but I just won't give them to you." After Shen Long heard this, he was not angry at all. He just walked over quietly. Then he picked up a knife from the side and looked at the Water Spirit Madonna in front of him. The Water Spirit Madonna suddenly had an ominous premonition. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.